Bride learned the groom's secret moments before the wedding. Her reaction shocked everyone. Emily Johnson was living the most important day of her life when everything fell apart in seconds. Just 15 minutes remained before she would walk down the aisle at Grace Cathedral in Denver when her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. It was the photos in that anonymous message that changed everything. Ethan, her fiancé, appeared in them hugging an older woman in front of Mercy Medical Center. What disturbed her most was immediately recognizing the light blue shirt he was wearing in the photo, the exact same one he had put on that morning. "Oh my God, this was just this morning," Emily whispered, feeling her legs tremble. Madison, her maid of honor and best friend since their teenage years, rushed to her side upon seeing her panicked expression. "Em, what happened? You're white as a sheet." Emily showed her the photos without speaking. Madison's eyes widened as she took the phone to examine the images more closely. "Who is this woman, and why would someone send this right now?" "I don't know, Maddie, but I need to talk to Ethan before I walk down that aisle. I can't marry him without knowing what's going on." Emily stormed out of the bridal suite like a hurricane, still in her veil and gown, with Madison running after her, trying to calm her down. The sound of her heels echoed through the church corridors as she searched for her groom. Dear listener, if you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us newcomers a lot. Now, back to the story. Ethan was in the back room of the church, adjusting his bow tie with the help of his best man, Brandon Thompson, his college friend. The two were chatting excitedly about their honeymoon plans when the door burst open. "Ethan Miller, I need to talk to you." "Now," Emily said, storming in like a tempest. Brandon looked between them, sensing the tension in the air. "I'll take a walk," he murmured, quickly stepping out and closing the door. Ethan froze when he saw the look on Emily's face. He had never seen her like this, a mix of anger, confusion, and pain that left him speechless. "Who is this woman, Ethan?" she asked, showing him the photos on her phone. Ethan's face drained of color. He stared at the images, his shoulders slumping as if carrying the weight of the world. "Emily, I can explain." "Then explain. Our entire family is out there waiting. Your mother is in the front row, beaming with pride." "And where were you? With whom?" Ethan sank heavily into a chair, burying his face in his hands. When he looked up, his eyes were wet. She's my mother, Emily." "What do you mean, your mother?" "Your mother is Mrs. Catherine, who helped me pick the flowers, who's out there nervous because you're late." "No, Emily, the woman in these photos is my birth mother. I found her 3 months ago." Emily felt as if the ground had vanished beneath her feet. She had known Ethan for 5 years, been with him for 3, and all that time he had told her he was an orphan, adopted as a baby, his birth parents deceased. "What do you mean you found her? You said that they were gone." "I thought they were. That's what I was always told. But a few months ago, when we were gathering documents for the wedding, I found some old papers in my mom's attic. There was an address, a name, Rachel Wilson." Ethan stood up and began pacing the small room. "I couldn't stop thinking about it. One night when you were away on a business trip to New York, I went to the address, and she was there, Emily, alive, working as a cleaner in an office building." Emily leaned against the wall, trying to process everything. "And you didn't tell me anything? We've been together for 3 years, Ethan. 3 years, and you kept this from me?" "I didn't know how to tell you. First, I wanted to understand what had happened, why she gave me up, why my mother said why she lied to me my whole life." Tears began streaming down Ethan's face. Emily had never seen him cry like this, with such deep pain it seemed to tear his soul apart. "And what did you find out?" "That my mother, Catherine, lied to me all along. My birth mother didn't abandon me, Emily. She was just a 16-year-old girl when I was born. Her family forced her to give me up for adoption, but she never stopped looking for me." Ethan stopped walking and looked directly at Emily. "Catherine worked as a nurse at the hospital where I was born. She offered to take care of me temporarily, said she was helping a family adopt me. But she lied. She forged documents, moved cities, and built an entire life based on a lie." Emily felt her heart pounding so hard, she was sure Ethan could hear it. It was all too much to process. In 15 minutes, her life had been turned upside down. And her, your birth mother, what does she want now? She's sick, Emily. Very sick. Cancer. That's why she was at the hospital today. I took her for chemotherapy. The news hit like a bomb. Emily looked at the photos again, now understanding the embrace, the closeness, the care in Ethan's expression. That's why you've been gone so much lately. That's why you've been coming home acting strange, distant. I didn't know how to tell you, how to tell Catherine, how to handle all of this. I found out I have a mother who's dying and another who lied to me my whole life. Knocks on the door interrupted them. It was Brandon. Guys, Father Michael is asking if everything's okay. The guests are getting nervous. Emily looked at Ethan, then at the door, and finally at her reflection in the bedroom mirror. Her veil was crooked, her makeup smudged from tears, and she felt like she was staring at a stranger. I don't know if I can do this, Ethan. I don't know if I can walk down that aisle pretending everything's fine when my whole life just became a lie in 15 minutes. Emily, please. I know I made a mistake not telling you sooner, but a mistake? Ethan, you built a life with me based on a lie. How many times did I ask about your family? How many times did I say I wanted to know your roots? And you looked me in the eye and lied. I wasn't lying about my feelings for you. That was never a lie. Emily closed her eyes, trying to steady herself. Outside, she could hear the murmurs of the guests, her mother's worried voice asking where she was, the organ testing the wedding music. Who else knows? Just Brandon. He helped me arrange meetings with her, made excuses when you asked where I was. So my future brother-in-law lied to me too. Ethan lowered his head, realizing how his choices had spun a web of lies that entangled innocent people. And your mother, does Catherine know? No. She has no idea I found Rachel. Emily took a deep breath, trying to sort her thoughts. It was like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Ethan, I need time to think. I need to process all of this. Emily, please don't ruin our wedding over this. I love you, I always have, and I'll tell Catherine everything after the honeymoon, I promise. It's not about ruining the wedding, Ethan. It's about trust. How can I promise to love and respect someone I can't trust? At that moment, the door opened again. It was Catherine Miller, the mother who had raised Ethan. A 62-year-old woman, her graying hair tied in an elegant bun, wearing a navy blue outfit she had chosen especially for her son's wedding. Ethan, my love, what's going on? The guests are asking if... Catherine stopped mid-sentence as she saw Emily's expression and the tears on her son's face. What happened here? Ethan and Emily exchanged glances. The tension in the air was so thick that Catherine immediately sensed something very serious was going on. Mom, we need to talk after the ceremony. Talk about what? Ethan, you're scaring me. Emily looked at Catherine, the woman who had been like a second mother to her all these years. Catherine had welcomed her into the family with such warmth, had been involved in every detail of the wedding planning, had cried with emotion when Ethan proposed. Mrs. Catherine, maybe you should sit down, said Emily, her voice firmer than she expected. Emily, dear, you're terrifying me. What happened? Ethan looked at Emily, silently pleading with her not to reveal everything right then. But Emily had made up her mind. No more lies, not in her life. Ethan found his birth mother, Mrs. Catherine. She's alive and they've been meeting for 3 months. The silence that followed was deafening. Catherine stared at Ethan as if she didn't recognize him, as if he were a stranger wearing her son's suit. What did you say? Mom, I can explain. No. Catherine's voice came out louder than she intended. Don't call me Mom right now, Ethan. Not after finding out you've been betraying me behind my back. I didn't betray anyone. I just wanted to understand. Understand what? Wasn't I a good mother to you? Didn't I raise you with love? Didn't I sacrifice my youth, my career, my dreams to give you a good life? Catherine was shaking with anger and pain. Emily had never seen her like this. Of course you were a good mother, but nothing. You went looking for this. This woman, who abandoned you as a baby as if I meant nothing in your life. She didn't abandon me, Mom. She was a child who was forced to... Forced? Ethan, you know nothing. You don't know what I went through to have you, what I had to give up, the doors that had to be closed. Emily watched the argument with a broken heart. She saw two people she loved destroying each other, all because of secrets kept for too long. What do you mean by that, Mrs. Catherine? Emily asked. Catherine looked at her, then at Ethan, and for a moment it seemed she might say something, but then she closed her mouth and shook her head. You don't understand. You don't know how things were back then. Then explain it to us, said Ethan. Explain to me why you said that she wasn't here anymore. Because it was better that way, for everyone. The door opened again, and Brandon rushed in. Guys, sorry to interrupt, but there's a situation outside. A woman is trying to enter the church, and security won't let her in. She says she's related to Ethan. Ethan turned completely pale. She came. Who came? Asked Catherine. Rachel, my birth mother. I told her about the wedding. Catherine leaned against the wall, looking like she might faint. You did what? I couldn't not tell her. She's sick, Mom. Really sick. This might be her last chance to see me happy. Last chance? What are you talking about? She has cancer. She's undergoing chemo. The doctors don't know how much time she has left. The news hit Catherine like a punch to the gut. Emily saw all the anger transform into something far more complex on the older woman's face. Cancer? Catherine repeated, her voice barely a whisper. Yes. That's why I was taking her to the hospital. That's what the photos from this morning were about. Catherine sank heavily into the chair where Ethan had been sitting just minutes before. Her hands trembled as she processed the information. Brandon, where is she now? Asked Emily. In the parking lot. Mrs. Jenkins, the church coordinator, is trying to calm her down. She's crying uncontrollably. Emily made a decision that surprised even herself. I'm going to talk to her. Emily, no, said Ethan. You don't need to get involved in this. I'm already involved, Ethan. The moment you decided to hide this from me, you dragged me in, and now I'm seeing it through. Emily left the room, leaving Ethan and Catherine alone with their ghosts and unspoken truths. Brandon hurried after her, trying to dissuade her. Emily, maybe this isn't a good idea. The situation is already complicated enough. Brandon, you've known about this for 3 months and said nothing, so I think you'd better stay quiet now. Outside, complete chaos had taken over. Guests whispered among themselves, trying to understand why the wedding was delayed. Emily's family was visibly nervous, especially her mother, Margaret Johnson, who paced back and forth in front of the church. In the parking lot, Emily found a thin woman in her mid-40s, her thinning brown hair showing the effects of treatment, wearing a simple but clean dress. She wept as she tried to explain to Mrs. Jenkins why she needed to go inside. Please, it's my son's wedding. I just want to see him happy. I won't cause any trouble, I promise. I'm sorry, Ma'am, but your name isn't on the guest list, said Mrs. Jenkins, clearly unsure how to handle the situation. Rachel? Emily called out. The woman turned, and Emily was shocked by what she saw. Rachel Wilson had Ethan's eyes, the same nose shape, the same way of tilting her head when confused. The family resemblance was undeniable. Are you Emily, the bride? Rachel asked, wiping her tears. I am, and you're Ethan's mother. Yes, I'm sorry for showing up like this. I know I wasn't invited, but Ethan told me about the wedding, and I just wanted to see him happy. From a distance. I didn't mean to cause trouble. Emily studied the woman's face. There was deep sadness there, but also a fragile hope, as if Rachel were clinging to a sliver of light in the darkness. Mrs. Jenkins, could you give us a moment? Emily asked. The coordinator hesitated, but eventually stepped away, leaving the two women alone. Rachel, Ethan told me about your situation, about your illness. Rachel looked down, seeming ashamed. I never wanted him to know. I didn't want him to feel obligated to take care of me. But when he showed up at my door 3 months ago, it felt like a miracle. How did you give him up for adoption? I didn't, Rachel said firmly. At least not the way you must be imagining. What do you mean? Rachel glanced around, checking no one was listening. I was 16 when I got pregnant. My family was very religious, very conservative. When they found out, they sent me to my aunt's house in another town. I was supposed to have the baby and give him to a good family. And you did. Not exactly. At the hospital, there was a very kind nurse, Catherine. She said she knew a wonderful family who was desperate for a child. Said they'd love Ethan as if he were their own flesh and blood. Emily felt a chill in her stomach. And then? She said it would be a temporary adoption, that I could visit him whenever I wanted, once I got back on my feet, that when I was older, I could even have a relationship with him if everyone agreed. But that never happened. No. When I went back to look for Ethan 2 years later, they were gone. Catherine, the baby, everyone. It was as if they had never existed. Emily felt her legs weaken. The story Ethan had told wasn't the full version of the truth. Did you try to find them? For years, I spent all my savings hiring people to investigate, but they had changed their names, their city, their lives. Catherine had erased every trace that could lead me to my son. And you gave up? Never. But after 15 years with no success, I started to accept that maybe it was better this way, that he had a good life, a family who loved him. I always dreamed of seeing him at least once when he was grown. Rachel began to cry again. And then, 3 months ago, he showed up at my door. Tall, handsome, college-educated, successful. Exactly as I had dreamed he would be. And you started meeting. Yes, he wanted to understand what had happened. He wanted to know about his family, about where he came from. And I finally got to be his mother, even if just for a few stolen moments. Emily looked toward the church where she knew Ethan and Catherine were still talking, probably confronting truths that had been buried for far too long. Rachel, does Ethan know all this? About Catherine promising you could visit him? No, I didn't want to hurt him. He loves Catherine, and she was a good mother to him. I didn't want to ruin that. But this changes everything. Catherine didn't just lie to Ethan, she lied to you too. Rachel shook her head. Emily, I know you must be confused, hurt, but please, don't let this destroy your marriage. Ethan is a good man. He just wanted to know his roots. It's not about knowing his roots, Rachel. It's about the lies. It's about trust. At that moment, Madison came running over. Your parents are frantic. Your mum is crying. What's going on? Emily looked at Rachel, then at Madison, and finally at the church where her entire family and friends were waiting for an explanation. Maddie, this is Rachel, Ethan's birth mother. Madison's eyes widened as she looked from one to the other. His birth mother? But Ethan said that. I know what Ethan said, but the situation is much more complicated than it seemed. Emily, what are you going to do? The guests are asking if the wedding is still happening. Emily took a deep breath. In 1 hour, her life had become a maze of lies, secrets, and pain. But looking at Rachel, seeing the fragile hope in her eyes, seeing the genuine love she had for Ethan, Emily made a decision. We're going into the church, all of us. What do you mean, all of us? Madison asked. Rachel is coming with me. She's Ethan's mother, and she has every right to be at her son's wedding. Emily, are you sure? This will cause a scene. Maddie, my life has already turned into a scene in the last 40 minutes. What's a little more drama? Rachel looked at Emily with tears in her eyes. You do this for me? No, Rachel. I do this for Ethan and for me. Because if we're starting a life together, it's going to start with the truth, the whole truth. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing, when Emily returned to the church's back room, she found Ethan and Catherine in heavy silence. Catherine was sitting with her face in her hands while Ethan stared out the window. We need to talk, all of us. Now, Emily said, entering with Rachel behind her. Catherine lifted her head and froze when she saw the woman in the doorway. It was like seeing a ghost. Rachel, she whispered. Hi, Catherine, Rachel replied, her voice trembling. Ethan looked from one to the other, realizing they knew each other. You've met before? Yes, son. We've known each other for a long time, Catherine said, slowly standing up. How long? Ethan asked. Rachel took a step forward. Ethan, Catherine was the nurse who took care of you when you were born. She was the one who said she'd place you with a good family. And that's what I did, Catherine said defensively. Did you? Rachel asked, her voice growing stronger. Because you told me I could visit my son. You said it would be temporary until I got back on my feet. Things changed, Catherine murmured. What things changed? Ethan asked, his voice rising. Catherine looked at her son, then at Rachel, and finally at Emily. She realized there was no escaping the truth anymore. I fell in love with you the first day I held you in my arms, Catherine said to Ethan. You were so small, so perfect. And when I saw how young Rachel was, how her family didn't support her, I thought it would be better for everyone if you had a mother who could give you stability. But you promised I could see him, Rachel insisted. I promised a lot of things back then. But when I saw how well you adjusted to our life, Ethan, how you thrived in our home, I couldn't risk your happiness. My happiness? Ethan exploded. Catherine, you kept me from knowing my birth mother. You kept me from knowing where I came from, who my family was, my history. I gave you a history. I gave you love, an education, opportunities. But you denied me the truth. Emily watched the argument unfold, seeing years of hurt and misunderstandings finally coming to light. You all need to stop, she said, her voice cutting through the tension. The guests have been waiting for over an hour, the families are worried, and we have a decision to make. What decision? Ethan asked. Whether we're getting married today or not. The silence that followed was absolute. Ethan looked at Emily as if she were his only anchor in the storm. You still want to marry me? After all this? I don't know, Ethan. Honestly, I don't. But I know I can't make that decision in the middle of all this chaos, with all this anger and pain in the air. Emily turned to Catherine and Rachel. You two are going to resolve this. Now, in this room. You'll talk like adults, lay your cards on the table, and find a way to move forward. Because I won't build my life on the wreckage of a war that started 30 years ago. Emily, Ethan tried to speak. No, Ethan, you too. You'll decide what you want, to live with secrets and lies, or to build something new based on the truth. But before that, your mother and your mother are going to settle what should have been settled long ago. Catherine and Rachel exchanged glances, decades of hurt and misunderstandings between them. I'll give you 20 minutes. After that, we either walk out of this room as a family that respects each other, or I go out there and call off this wedding in front of everyone. Emily left the room, leaving the three of them alone. Outside, she found Madison and Brandon waiting anxiously. How are things in there? Madison asked. Complicated. But maybe it's time for things to be complicated so they can finally be resolved. And you? How are you feeling? Brandon asked. Emily thought for a moment before answering. Like my life's been turned upside down, but also like maybe for the first time things are falling into the right place. I don't know if that makes sense. It does, Madison said. You've always been the most level-headed of us all. If anyone can sort this mess out, it's you. Inside the room, Catherine, Rachel, and Ethan stared at each other in silence. Finally, Catherine was the first to speak. Rachel, I owe you an apology. You really do, Rachel replied, but her voice held no anger, only weariness. When you took Ethan from me, I saw a chance to be a mother. I had tried to get pregnant for years, had lost 2 babies. When he came into my life, it was like God had given me a second chance. And I understand that, Catherine, I truly do, but you didn't have to cut me out of his life completely. I was afraid, Catherine admitted. Afraid you'd change your mind, afraid Ethan would prefer you when he grew up, afraid of losing the only child I might ever have. Ethan, who had listened silently, finally spoke. Moms, do you realize you spent 30 years fighting over me when you could have loved me together? The 2 women looked at him, seeing the pain in his eyes. Ethan is right, said Rachel. I lost 30 years of my son's life because of pride and hurt. And you, Catherine, lived 30 years afraid of losing what was already yours. What do you mean, already mine? You raised him, cared for him, loved him. Nothing I did or said would change that. You're his mother just as much as I am." Catherine began to cry. "I'm so sorry, Rachel. I truly am. I made a terrible mistake. We all made mistakes. I did too. I should have fought harder, should have sought legal help back then. And I," said Ethan, "should have told Emily from the first day I found you." "Why didn't you?" Rachel asked. "Because I was confused. Because I didn't know how to process it all. Because I was afraid she wouldn't understand." "And now?" Catherine asked. "Now I know lies always cause more pain than the truth. And if Emily can't accept my family," he looked at both women, "my whole family, then maybe we're not meant to be." Rachel stepped closer to Catherine. "Catherine, I'm sick. The doctor doesn't give me much time. I don't want to spend what I have left fighting with you. I want to spend it getting to know my son and, if you'll let me, maybe rebuilding a friendship we lost long ago." Catherine looked at Rachel, seeing for the first time not the threat she'd imagined for 30 years, but a fragile, sick woman who just wanted to spend her last moments with her son. "Rachel, can you forgive me for what I did?" "I can, if you can forgive me for misjudging you all these years, for thinking you stole my son when, in truth, you just loved him the only way you knew how." The two women embraced, and Ethan felt as if a huge weight had lifted from his shoulders. "Now," said Catherine, stepping back, "we need to settle things with Emily." "She has every right to be angry," Ethan said. "She does," Rachel agreed. "But she also seems like a very smart woman. If she truly loves you, she'll find a way to forgive." "And if she can't?" "Then you'll have to accept the consequences of your choices," Catherine said. "But you'll do it with dignity, knowing you finally told the truth." Ethan took a deep breath and walked to the door. "I'll call her." When Emily returned to the room, she found a completely different scene. Catherine and Rachel were sitting side by side, talking softly, while Ethan leaned against the wall, watching. "How are you all?" Emily asked. "Better," Catherine replied. "Much better." "Emily," Rachel said, "I'd like to apologize for showing up at your wedding like that. I know I caused a terrible mess." "You didn't cause a mess, Rachel. The secrets did." Emily turned to Ethan. "And you, did you reach any conclusions?" "I did. That I love you more than anything in this world. That I made a terrible mistake hiding this from you. And that, no matter what you decide about our marriage, I'll never lie or hide anything from you again. And how can I trust that? Because from now on, I'll have nothing left to hide." Rachel and Catherine had settled their differences. "I'm going to tell everything to our families. I'll be completely transparent about all of it." Emily looked at the three people in front of her. She saw Catherine, the woman who had been like a second mother to her. She saw Rachel, a sick woman who just wanted to spend the time she had left with her son. And she saw Ethan, the man she loved, who had made a mistake but was willing to make it right. "Catherine, Rachel, could you give me a minute alone with Ethan?" The two women left, leaving the couple by themselves. "Ethan, I need you to understand something. I'm not angry because you found your birth mother. I'm angry because you didn't trust me enough to share this with me. I know, and it kills me inside. We've always talked about everything, always. And suddenly you started living a secret life, lying about where you were, shutting me out of the most important part of your life at the time. Emily, I was confused. It was too much to process. That's exactly why you should have shared it with me, so you wouldn't have to process it alone." Ethan stepped closer to her. "Can you forgive me?" Emily was silent for a long moment. "Ethan, I love you. I love you deeply. But I need to know this will never happen again. I need to know we're a team, that we face things together. We are. I promise we are. And your family. How are we going to handle this situation?" "The way any normal family does, with love, patience, and a lot of talking. Rachel will be part of our lives for as long as she has left. Catherine will have to learn to share. And I'll have to learn to balance everything. It won't be easy. Nothing worth having ever is." Emily looked at Ethan, seeing in his eyes the man she had fallen in love with 5 years ago. A good man who had made a mistake, but who was willing to do whatever it took to make it right. "Okay," she finally said. Okay, what? Okay, we'll get married, but on one condition. What? Rachel sits in the front row, next to Catherine, and you, at the altar, will introduce them both as your mothers. Ethan smiled for the first time since this whole mess had started. Are you sure? I'm sure. But Ethan, she stepped closer to him, if you ever, for the rest of our lives, keep something important from me again, I'll hand you over to Rachel and Catherine myself. Ethan laughed and kissed her. I promise it won't be necessary. When they left the room, they found Catherine and Rachel chatting excitedly in the hallway. Well? Catherine asked eagerly. Well, we're having a wedding, with a few changes to the seating arrangements, Emily said. Rachel started crying again. Emily, I don't know how to thank you. By taking good care of my husband and letting him take good care of you. Just then, Madison came running in. Guys, you need to know. It's chaos out there. Emily's family is frantic, the priest is nervous, and guests are starting to leave. Then we'd better hurry, Emily said. We have a wedding to get to. The next hour was a whirlwind of emotions. Emily had to explain the situation to her parents and siblings, which caused another uproar. Her mother, Margaret, was at first furious with Ethan for lying, but eventually softened at Rachel's story. That poor woman, Margaret said, spent her whole life looking for her son. Emily's father, Robert Johnson, was more direct. Ethan, my boy, you were a fool, but every man is a fool at least once in his life. What matters is that you learn from it. Emily's brothers were torn between supporting their sister and questioning if she was making the right choice, but in the end, they agreed she knew what she was doing. On Ethan's side of the family, things were more complicated. When Catherine explained the truth to the relatives, some judged her actions, but most understood she had acted out of love, even if misguided. Rachel was met with curiosity and gradually with acceptance, especially when Ethan's older aunts saw how emotional she became watching him in his tuxedo, ready to marry. Finally, 2.5 hours behind schedule, the ceremony began. Emily entered the church on her father's arm, but before reaching the altar she paused. She walked to the front row where Catherine and Rachel sat side by side and hugged them both. Thank you for raising and caring for the man I love, she told them. When she reached the altar, Ethan waited with tears in his eyes. Father Michael, who had known the family for years, had been briefed on the situation and chose to improvise. Dear friends, he said, we are here not only to celebrate the union of Emily and Ethan, but also the reunion of a family that has found its way back together. During the ceremony, when it came time for vows, Emily surprised everyone. Ethan, she said, I promise to love you on the easy days and the hard ones. I promise to stand by you in joy and sorrow. I promise to be there when the truth is hard to accept and when lies try to pull us apart. I promise to love your family. She glanced at Catherine and Rachel. All of your family, as you love mine. Ethan, moved, replied, Emily, I promise to always be honest with you, even when the truth is hard to share. I promise to share my whole life with you. No secrets, no omissions. I promise to build our family on love and transparency. And I promise to care for the people I love, including you and both my mothers, for the rest of my life. When the priest said, You may kiss the bride, the cathedral erupted in applause. But what happened next truly marked the moment. Ethan stepped down from the altar and embraced Catherine and Rachel at the same time, whispering, Thank you, to both. The wedding reception was unlike anything they had planned. Catherine and Rachel sat at the head table, one on each side of Ethan and Emily, and slowly got to know each other's families. During the speeches, Brandon publicly apologized for helping keep the secret and thanked Emily for her generosity in accepting the situation. Catherine gave an emotional speech about how she had learned love doesn't shrink when shared, it grows. Rachel, nervous about public speaking, gave a brief thanks for the chance to be there and called it the happiest day of her life. But it was Emily's speech that moved everyone. 3 months ago, I thought I knew the whole story of the man I was marrying. Today, I found entire chapters I never knew. And you know what? It made me love him even more. Not for the lies, not for the secrets, but for the courage he found to finally tell the truth, and for the courage Catherine and Rachel showed in forgiving and starting fresh. She looked at Ethan. "My love, our story is just beginning, and I promise we'll write it together, page by page, leaving no chapter untold." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us newcomers so much. Now, continuing. In the months that followed, the family truly rebuilt itself. Rachel moved into a small but comfortable apartment near Ethan and Emily's home, which Catherine helped pick out and furnish. Surprisingly, the two women developed a genuine friendship. Catherine accompanied Rachel to chemotherapy sessions, and Rachel helped Catherine cope with the empty nest syndrome she began feeling after her son's marriage. Ethan divided his time between caring for his wife, who had begun showing signs of pregnancy 3 months after their wedding, and ensuring his two mothers were doing well. The news of the pregnancy brought special joy to Rachel, who knew she likely wouldn't live to see the child grow, but was thrilled to be part of the preparations. "Will it be a boy or a girl?" she asked during a family lunch. "It's still too early to tell," Emily replied, "but whatever it is, they'll have 2 wonderful grandmothers to spoil them." 3, Catherine corrected. "Your mother will want to spoil them too." "True," Emily laughed. "Poor child, spoiled by 3 grandmothers." "And a grandfather who's already planning to teach them soccer," said Robert Johnson, who had grown very fond of Rachel and always included her in family gatherings. During Emily's pregnancy, Rachel's health took a significant turn for the worse. The doctors were clear the cancer had spread and time was running out. The news devastated Ethan, who had grown accustomed to having his birth mother back in his life. Emily and Catherine came together to support him and ensure Rachel felt loved and cared for. "I want you all to know," Rachel said during one of their last conversations together, "these past few months have been the happiest of my life. I got to know my son, see him happy, make peace with Catherine, and now I'm going to be a grandmother." "You'll meet your grandchild," said Emily, now 7 months pregnant. "God willing, yes. But if not, I want you to tell them about me. Let them know they had a grandmother who loved them before they were even born." "They'll know," Ethan promised. "And they'll know they had a brave grandmother who never gave up searching for the son she loved." 2 weeks before the baby was due, Rachel was hospitalized. Catherine practically moved into the hospital, tending to her every need. "Why are you doing this?" Rachel asked weakly but lucidly. "Because we're family now," Catherine replied simply, "and family takes care of each other." Emily gave birth on May 15th to a beautiful girl named Rachel Catherine Johnson Miller. Rachel held her granddaughter in her arms for a few minutes, weeping with emotion. "She's perfect," she whispered, "just like Ethan when he was born." 3 days later, Rachel passed away in her sleep, holding Catherine's hand with Ethan by her side. Her last words were, "Thank you for letting me be a mother." The funeral was a celebration of Rachel's life. Ethan made sure everyone knew she hadn't abandoned him, but had fought for 30 years to find him. Surprisingly, Catherine was the one who cried the most. In those final months, she had realized how much she'd lost by keeping Rachel away from Ethan, and how much she'd gained by letting her into their lives. "She taught me what it truly means to be a mother," Catherine said during her eulogy. "She taught me that being a mother isn't about possession, it's about love. It's wanting what's best for your child, even if that best doesn't include you." 2 years later, as little Rachel Catherine took her first steps, Ethan and Emily organized a special lunch. They had decided to tell their daughter about her grandmother Rachel, how she had fought to find Daddy, how she had become friends with Grandma Catherine. "She was a very special person," Emily said, showing the toddler pictures of Rachel. "Auntie Rachel," the child babbled, pointing at the photos. "That's right, sweetheart. Your grandmother Rachel, who loved you long before you were born." Catherine, now a constant presence in the family's life, watched the scene with a quiet smile. "Did you know Rachel left me a letter?" she said suddenly. "What do you mean?" Ethan asked. "A letter she gave me a few days before she passed. She asked me to open it when Rachel Catherine turned 2. Catherine pulled an envelope from her purse pocket. "May I read it?" Ethan and Emily nodded. Catherine opened the letter with trembling hands and began reading. Dear Catherine, if you're reading this, our little granddaughter must be all grown up now. I hope she's healthy and happy. I want you to know I've completely forgiven you. More than that, I thank you. You gave Ethan a life I never could have given him. You loved him, raised him, and shaped him into the wonderful man he is today. I know you feel guilty about the time we lost, but don't. Everything happened as it was meant to. I needed to grow, mature, and become someone capable of being a good mother. And you needed to have Ethan to yourself for a while, to raise him with all the love you'd saved up. Now, take care of our granddaughter just as you did with Ethan. And always remember, you're not just Ethan's adoptive mother. You're simply his mother. Nothing will ever change that. With love and gratitude, Rachel P.S. At the bottom of my desk drawer, there's a box with letters I wrote to Ethan over the years. Give them to him when you think the time is right. When Catherine finished reading, everyone was crying. Ethan hugged his mother tightly. She was right, he said. You're my mother. Period. We're both your mothers, Catherine corrected, and we always will be. That night, after putting Catherine to bed, Ethan and Emily talked about everything that had happened. Do you regret anything? Ethan asked. I regret you not telling me from the start, but I don't regret deciding to stay married, and I don't regret insisting Rachel be part of our family. Even with all the chaos it caused, Ethan, our family is stronger because of that chaos. Catherine will grow up knowing she comes from a family that overcame differences, that forgave, that chose love over resentment. And Catherine? Your mother became a better person, more generous, more understanding. Being around Rachel changed her. Ethan took Emily's hand. And us? We learned that marriage isn't about avoiding problems. It's about facing them together. It's about choosing to trust even when it's hard. It's about building something bigger than ourselves. Do you think Rachel would be proud of what we've built? I'm sure she would. She got what she wanted most, to see you happy and to build a family based on real love. The following year, Ethan surprised Emily by suggesting they renew their vows, not because there were problems between them, but because they wanted to celebrate what they'd built together. The ceremony was small and intimate, held in the garden of the home they'd bought. Catherine was there, of course, along with everyone who had supported the family through the hard times. During the vow renewal, Ethan added a special promise. Emily, I promise to honor not just you, but all the people who brought us here. I promise to teach our daughter the importance of truth, forgiveness, and love that overcomes any difference. Emily, in response, said, Ethan, I promise to keep choosing our family every single day. I promise to teach our daughter that families aren't just defined by blood, but by love, by choice, by the daily decision to care for one another. After the ceremony, Catherine approached them. You know Rachel left more than letters, right? What do you mean? Emily asked. She left a small life insurance policy. It's not much, but she specified it should be used for Catherine's education. She did that? Yes. And she left a letter for her granddaughter to be opened when she turns 18. Ethan and Emily exchanged an emotional glance. She really thought of everything, Ethan said. She loved you, Catherine replied, more than you'll ever know. As Catherine grew older, it became increasingly clear that she had inherited traits from the entire family. She had Ethan's eyes, Emily's smile, and the determination of both Catherine and Rachel. When she turned 5, the little girl asked a question no one expected. Daddy, why doesn't Grandma Rachel visit us anymore? Ethan and Emily had prepared for this moment, but it was still hard to explain. Remember how we talked about how some people get sick and have to leave? Emily said softly. I remember. But is she coming back? No, sweetheart, she isn't. But she's always with us in our hearts and in the memories we have of her. And in the pictures, added Catherine, who had arrived for Sunday lunch. Grandma Catherine, did Grandma Rachel love me? She loved you very much, my princess. You were the joy of her life. Then why did she leave? Ethan knelt to his daughter's level. Because sometimes people don't get to choose whether they stay, Rachel, but they can choose how they're remembered. And your Grandma Rachel chose to be remembered as someone who loved deeply, who fought to stay with her family and who never gave up on what was important. Like you and Mommy. Like us, Ethan confirmed. That night after Rachel Catherine fell asleep, Ethan found Emily on the porch, gazing at the stars. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, sitting beside her. "How strange life is. 6 years ago, I thought I had everything planned. I knew exactly how our life, our family, our future would be. And now I know the best moments in life are the ones we don't plan. The surprises, the challenges, the people who show up when we least expect them." "Are you talking about Rachel?" "I'm talking about everything. About Rachel, about the discoveries about your family, about the conflicts we had to resolve, about how our family formed in a way completely different from what we imagined." Ethan took Emily's hand. "Do you think our story would have been different if I'd told you everything from the start?" "It would have, but not necessarily better. Maybe the way it all happened was the way it needed to happen. For you to learn about honesty, for Catherine to learn about forgiveness, for Rachel to have the chance to make peace with the past, and for you. For me to learn that true love isn't about having no problems. It's about having the courage to face them together." 2 years later, when Rachel Catherine turned 7, the family received a surprise. A young woman appeared at their door, claiming to be Rachel Wilson's cousin. "Sorry to bother you," she said. "My name is Jennifer Wilson. I'm the daughter of Rachel's cousin. I heard your story through distant relatives and, well, I have some things that belong to my great-aunt." Ethan and Emily invited her inside. Jennifer brought a box with old photos, some baby clothes Rachel had kept for 30 years, hoping to find her son, and a few documents. "She kept all this?" Ethan asked, moved. "She did. My grandmother said Rachel never stopped believing she'd find you one day. These clothes were meant for you as a baby, but since you were separated, she kept them," Catherine finished, holding a tiny blue onesie. "And there's one more thing," Jennifer said hesitantly. "Rachel had a younger sister, my great-grandmother. You have family, Uncle Ethan. We're not many, but we exist." The discovery opened a new chapter in the family's life. Ethan met cousins, great-uncles, and a network of relatives he'd lost when he was separated from Rachel. Emily watched it all with joy, seeing how their family continued to grow and expand in unexpected ways. "Our daughter will have even more family to meet," she told Ethan. "You don't mind?" "Why would I? The more people to love our daughter, the better." The arrival of the Wilson family also brought stories about Rachel that no one had known before. Stories about how she had been a brave young woman who stood up to her family to try to reclaim her son. About how she had worked hard, studied at night, and become a person of integrity despite all the hardships. "She talked about you constantly," Jennifer told Ethan. "She always said that one day she would find her son, that he would be a good man, well-educated, with a beautiful family." "She was right," said Catherine, smiling. During Ethan and Emily's 10th wedding anniversary, the family organized a big celebration. Everyone was there: the Johnson family, the Miller family, the Wilsons, and all the friends who had been part of the couple's journey. Brandon, who remained Ethan's best friend, gave an emotional speech. 10 years ago, I thought I was helping Ethan hide a secret. Now I realize I was helping build one of the most beautiful families I've ever known. A family that proves true love overcomes any obstacle." Catherine, now 72, also spoke. "When Ethan was born, I thought I knew what it meant to be a mother. When Rachel came back into our lives, I learned that being a mother is so much more than I ever imagined. It's about sharing, forgiving, and knowing that love grows when it's given away." Emily, pregnant with their second child, closed the speeches. 10 years ago, I got married thinking I knew the man beside me. I've since learned that knowing someone is a lifelong process. Every day I discover something new about Ethan, about our family, about the love we've built together, and I'm grateful for every discovery, every challenge, every moment of joy and hardship that's brought us here. Rachel Catherine, now 8, also wanted to speak. "I want to thank all my grandmothers: Grandma Catherine, who teaches me to cook; Grandma Margaret, who teaches me to sew; and Grandma Rachel, who teaches me through stories to never give up on my dreams." At the end of the party, when everyone had left, Ethan and Emily stayed behind to clean up. "Are you happy?" Ethan asked. "Very," Emily replied. Sometimes I look at our life and can't believe how far we've come. With lots of talking, lots of forgiving, and a few productive arguments, Ethan laughed. And most of all, with lots of love. Love that grows, that multiplies, that embraces everyone who's part of our story, including those who are no longer here. Especially them. Rachel is still part of our family, always will be. The following month, Ethan Jr. was born, a healthy boy who brought even more joy to the extended family. Catherine melted over her new grandson, saying he looked just like his father as a baby. And just like Rachel too, Jennifer said during a visit. He has the same way of furrowing his brow when he's concentrating. Life went on, with its ups and downs, joys and challenges, but always with the strong foundation the family had built through honesty, forgiveness, and unconditional love. When Rachel Catherine turned 15, she asked to learn more about the grandmother she had lost too soon. Ethan and Emily decided it was time to open the box of letters Rachel had written over the years. There were dozens, one for every birthday of Ethan's she had missed, one for every Christmas they spent apart, one for the day he graduated college, which she had imagined would happen, one for his wedding day, which she had dreamed of witnessing. She really never gave up, Rachel Catherine said, moved. Never, Ethan confirmed, and it was that persistence that brought us here. As they read the letters, the family discovered details about Rachel's life they had never known. Her fears, her hopes, her daily prayers for her son's well-being, her unshakable faith that one day they would be reunited. She was incredible, said Emily, reading a letter where Rachel spoke about how she imagined the woman Ethan would choose. I hope he finds a good woman, one who truly loves him, who stands by him in hard times. I hope she's generous enough to accept a mother-in-law who suddenly appeared in their lives. I promise to be the best mother-in-law I can be, if God gives me this chance. She really would have been, Emily murmured. That night, the family decided to create an annual tradition. Every May 15th, Rachel Catherine's birthday, and the day Rachel Wilson passed away, they would gather to share stories, look at photos, and give thanks for all Rachel had brought to their lives. It's a way to keep her always present, Catherine explained to her grandchildren, and to teach future generations the importance of never giving up on the people we love, Ethan added. When Rachel Catherine turned 18, it was time to open the letter her grandmother had left especially for her. The whole family gathered for the moment. With trembling hands, the young woman opened the envelope and began to read. My dearest granddaughter, if you're reading this, you've become a woman. I hope you're strong, generous, and determined like your mother, and kind like your father. I want you to know that you were the greatest joy of my last days. Holding you in my arms, seeing you open your little eyes for the first time, was like receiving a gift from God. Now that you're grown, I want to share some things I've learned in life. First, never give up on the people you love. Even when it seems impossible, even when everyone says it's too late, keep fighting. That's what brought me back to your father. Second, always forgive. Resentment only hurts the one who carries it. Your grandmother Catherine could have remained my enemy forever, but we chose forgiveness, and it gave us a wonderful friendship. Third, family isn't just blood. It's a choice. It's care. It's showing up. Your family is beautiful because everyone chose to be there. Everyone chose to love one another. Fourth, always be honest. Lies cause more pain than any truth. Your parents learned that the hard way, but they learned. You can avoid that pain by always being transparent. And lastly, love deeply. Love without fear. Love without holding back. Love knowing it's worth every risk. Your father is an extraordinary man. Your mother is an exceptional woman, and you're the best of both worlds. Be happy, my dearest granddaughter, and always remember, you have a grandmother in heaven who loves you endlessly. With all my love, your grandmother Rachel. When Rachel Catherine finished reading, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Ethan hugged his daughter, Emily nestled into them both, Catherine joined the embrace, and Ethan Jr., now 10 years old, completed the family circle. She was right about everything, Rachel Catherine said. About you, about our family, about love. She had a wisdom born from suffering, but also from hope. Catherine said. And that's something very rare. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Ethan and Emily stayed on the porch as they often did when they had something important to discuss. 18 years, Ethan said. Our daughter's all grown up. And what a woman. Strong, smart, generous. Exactly as Rachel had wished. Do you think we did the right thing? Raising her knowing this whole story from the start? I'm sure of it. She grew up knowing she comes from a family that overcame differences, that chose love, that never gave up. That's a priceless legacy. And Ethan Jr., do you think he understands all this? He understands what he needs to at his age, and when the time comes, he'll understand more. Our family's story is too rich to be taken in all at once. Sometimes I still can't believe it all started with those photos on our wedding day. It didn't start with the photos, Ethan. It started with Rachel searching for you for 30 years. It started with Catherine loving you like a son. It started with you having the courage to seek your roots. The photos were just the moment when everything came to light. And you? Do you regret anything? I regret taking 3 hours to decide whether or not I was going to get married. Emily laughed. I could have made up my mind in one. Why did you decide so quickly? Because I saw the way you cried, the way you cared for both mothers, the way you wanted everything to work out. I saw that you were exactly the man I thought you were, just with more layers, more depth, more history. And that attracted you. It made me love you even more. Simple people are easy to understand, but complex people are interesting, and I always knew you were interesting. 3 years later, Rachel Catherine married a young man she'd met in college. The wedding was held at the same church where Ethan and Emily had married, but this time there were no last-minute surprises or revelations. During the ceremony, Rachel Catherine included a special moment honoring the grandmother she'd lost too soon, reading a passage from one of Rachel's letters. Ethan Jr., now 13, was the ring bearer. Catherine, at 80 years old, was radiant watching her granddaughter get married. Rachel would be so proud, Catherine said to Ethan at the reception. She would. And she'd be proud of you, too, of how you've become the matriarch of this family. I learned from her. I learned that being a matriarch isn't about control, it's about embracing. It's making room for everyone, caring without smothering. You learned well. A year later, Rachel Catherine gave birth to a baby girl named Catherine Rachel. The great-grandmother was moved by the tribute. Now we're 4 generations, Catherine said, cradling her great-granddaughter. And the story continues, Emily said, watching the scene. Ethan took his wife's hand. Do you still marvel at the turns our life has taken? I do, but I've learned to love the surprises, especially when they bring more love to our family. And if our great-granddaughter ever asks about the family's story one day, we'll tell her everything, about how her great-grandfather found the family he'd lost, how great-grandmother Catherine learned to share her love, how great-grandmother Rachel never gave up on her dreams, how you and I learned that true love overcomes any obstacle. It'll be a long story. The best stories always are. The end. Did you enjoy this story about how love and forgiveness can rebuild a family? Tell us in the comments which part moved you the most and share your own experiences about second chances and family reconciliation. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories.